let me start off by saying that I do really wish I was one of those people who can confidently say that I have no regrets. There were so many things that I could have done better in my 20s, and if I could turn back time, I would definitely do things differently. But the funny thing is, none of us can. Well, unless one day someone discovers how to create a wormhole which gives us a passage through space-time, but until then. But what I can do instead is sharing my regrets in my 20s. So if you are in your 20s right now, you can learn from them. You're welcome. And I won't be talking about not being confident or worrying too much about what people think, because we can all agree that you have probably heard those 1,000 times already. Now, I wouldn't really say that my 20s was all doomed, because honestly, I was doing a few things right. I did try several hobbies and I learned another language, and some of the skills are the skills that I'm still pretty good at today. I never really got into big massive debts in my 20s. My grandparents were farmers and they were from a very poor background, so I understood at a very young age how important money was and how you need to spend money wisely and the importance of saving. However, I really regret not seeing the importance of making more money and investing. Now, I've talked about this before in this channel, but in order to build wealth, you need all the pillars of wealth generation, and those are maximizing your income and minimizing your expenses so that you can create a bigger gap between those two, and use this gap to save if you need a short-term saving, or alternatively invest in something, anything that you can exponentially grow your money. Now, because in my 20s I didn't have a growth mindset when it comes to money. Actually, I didn't have a growth mindset when it comes to anything at all, so I was solely focused on the reducing expenses side of the equation, focusing on saving, but rather than putting more focus on making more money and investing that money. So in my 20s, I never picked a job or a career because I knew it would earn me good money or more money. It was all about whether I will be happy doing that job, whether my skill sets and my knowledge will be beneficial to the job, and the money never really crossed my mind. And I think maybe that's not the best approach, especially in your 20s when you want to build your career, when you want to build up your wealth. And this is why I think a lot of people pick a job in sales, because although they might not even be great at selling or enjoy selling, however, they know that selling brings commissions and more money. And I'm not saying in any way it's just for you to pick a job or a career solely based on the money. However, in your 20s, I think it's really important to consider money-making potentials as well when picking a career. And when it comes to investing, I think I have more regrets on the investing side than making money side. I am a finance major graduate. If anything, I should understand the importance of investing even in my university, but unfortunately, I didn't. I didn't take the knowledge that I learned about investing and the stock market in classroom and apply that in the real life. And that's something that I hugely regret. And as we briefly talking about jobs, I also kind of regret not being so fearless and taking chances. Now, when I first graduated, I always had this mentality where you have to stick with whatever employment that you had for at least a year, otherwise it will look bad on your CV, and job hopping is never really good. But doing that, we essentially wasting our time, especially when we know that the job is not a right fit for us. In this day of age, I don't think there's such thing as a stable lifelong career anymore. Most of the time people end up doing what they're doing now because they've done this before, and then they kind of got into that, and then they happen to land into the role or the job that they're currently doing. Growing up in Asia, I didn't really have many choices. You either go to university to get a job, or otherwise the only job opportunity you ever had would be cleaning up the streets. Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way, but degree was regarded as one of the most important thing that every individual needs to have in order to get somewhere in life. And I did not want to go to university. I did not want to do a degree, because at that point in time I wanted to do something else completely different. I wanted to do my own thing, figure things out without having to go to university. But I wasn't really given any choice. If you grow up with an Asian parents, you know exactly what I mean. And it's not that I regret my degree. However, from time to time, I do really think where my life would be now had I didn't have to spend 4 years in university getting a degree that I don't really use. Had I gone straight to the job market, will I be much better placed financially and in terms of experience wise? And the answer is potentially. Now, have you ever heard the saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? Now, you may have not noticed this yet, depends on where you are in life right now, but you actually learn a lot of things from the people that you regularly interact with. Now, in my 20s, apart from my family, the people that I mostly interacted with was my friends. And that was it. I do really regret not network more, because in this day and age, it's really less about what you know and more about who you know. And even though I had some good network, I really regret not using them to my advantage. At the time that I graduated university, my mother was kind of successfully climbed up her corporate ladder. She was working for the biggest conglomerate in Thailand, and she held a pretty high up position. And she came to me and said, you know, Poppy, I could get you a job at the company. And I knew then that had I followed along with her suggestion, I would have had a pretty good future with the company, but I flat out said no. It's just a very silly decision, because I wanted people to view me as a noble person, a good person that doesn't cheat the system. So I didn't want to use my network to get me to places. So I really regret not understanding how crucial networking is and how absolutely okay it is to use the network that I had. Now, another thing that I really regret was that I never really took the time to understand who I am as a person. I was never really a confident kid, but can you blame me with this ridiculous haircut? And because I was never confident, I spent so much time trying to seek approvals from others and trying to please everyone else around me but myself. I never really spent any time to look inwards to figure out what was it that I really enjoy doing. Where do I see myself being in the next 5 years, 10 years, or where do I want to be when I'm 50s? When do I want to retire? Or what kind of lifestyle do I want to have? And where my competencies actually lies and what makes me different from the person next to me. And the problem with not knowing who I was really as a person is that I spent a lot of time doing things because other people were doing it, doing things because what society see as normal, but never what I wanted to do. This is what I'm doing now and trying to figuring out now in my 30s, but I really do wish that I did this sooner in my 20s. And because I was never really confident and because I was always a people pleaser, I did end up in my 20s prioritizing relationships, romantic relationships, over my own career and my own growth. Back then, if I thought that I liked someone or loved someone, I wouldn't think twice about moving to be closer to the person. I didn't do this very often, but there were a few times that I had to move to different city and leaving my job because I wanted to be closer to the person that I was seeing at the time. And I always wanted to be an independent woman. I always wanted to be able to make my own money, who can survive and live a pretty decent life without any other people's support or financial support especially. So by sacrificing my own career for romantic relationship at the time, it really hit me hard in terms of my career progression. Now, regardless of all of this, I am a true believer that it is never too late to start something or to achieve what you want to do. So although I have all these regrets, I actually somehow appreciate them because they make me the person that I am today. If you found this video helpful or if you can actually relate to any of this, then do let me know in the comments. I appreciate your time watching this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye.